Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sasha Reade. Huge apologies first of all, just to say you've not seen me for 2 weeks, but it's just been seriously hot in the UK. We've had a crazy hectic time selling a house, trying to buy a house, doing teacher gifts, saying goodbye to everyone at school, finishing the year off, and it's just been a bit mental. So tonight we're going to work on some shutter cards using these new dies that I've got. These came out a little while ago, but I love them and I haven't actually played with the shutter aspect of it. And I had a lot of fun with this. I wanted to make a gift for the teachers and I wanted a card to match, and I thought these dies would be perfect for that, so I could give them a really cool unique card and also a gift that matches with it and kind of do the minimal effort required basically. So these dies take all the stress out of it. You can make shutter cards yourselves. I've never done one before. I just like the dies, so I'm using the dies. And this is kind of what comes with it. Now, I went out and I bought, well, I didn't go out, I ordered in. This is from Amazon. I ordered these to-do books. My boss at my job that I have recently finished uses these all the time, and I thought this would be perfect for the teachers. But I wanted to kind of spice it up and make it a bit more crafty. So I'm doing my own covers. So I went and got some of this chipboard, which is actually from the picture framers I used to work at, and cut it down to be covers that are just slightly bigger than the pages of my book. So I measured the book and cut down these covers. I then picked out some of my favorite papers from a paper pad that I got from a lovely lady named Donna who follows me on YouTube. And I've been going through these papers and I thought actually coffee and tea is perfect for teachers' gifts. Now I worked out that if I cut my covers, I then had enough to use the scraps and leftovers for the cards. So it's a bit of a longer video tonight, but you're going to see me make the journal covers, alter the books, and then you're going to see how to build the shutter cards as well. So the first thing I do is just measure how wide my cover is and how much I want to have overlapping and overhanging. So I've got kind of a 5mm on all sides, I believe, and that's kind of how I do my covers. And then I take some super sticky tape, I run that over the back on the edges and make a cross in the middle. And then I take a glue stick. This is the Scotch glue stick that I use. I buy these from Costco in bulk. I really like them. I've used them for years. I did some journals about 6-7 years ago and they're still in perfect condition. None of the adhesive has come up. The tape I'm using is score tape or Sookwang tape. I ordered it directly from Sookwang. I'll try and put that link down below for you. And all I do is apply it as you've seen there, and then I take some copy paper and rub over the back of it with a bone folder really firmly. And make sure to use the copy paper because I don't want to scratch or wreck the surface of my paper that is going on as my cover. I then crease all the edges as you've just seen me there by bending my card forward to kind of fold that edge around it. I then snip the corners ever so slightly off. I think this is called mitering the edges. I then go ahead and use my super strong tape again and go along all those edges, always using my bone folder in every single time that I put tape down. So in between every time I'm putting the tape down, I use my bone folder and kind of firm that crease up or firm that pressing down. Then I'm going to go ahead and poke the corners in. So I'm kind of poking them in and pushing them down, and it gives you this really perfect sort of gift wrap look. So you get these really beautiful edges, and then I obviously come in with my bone folder again and give it a really firm press. So I tuck those little corners in, fold it over, give it a really good press. We're going to seal the back of this with another piece of cardstock, so we don't need to worry about the middle of it and how it's looking, or if I got it slightly wonky, because I'm going to cut a piece of cardstock just a bit thinner to go in the middle. Obviously, I'm going to come in and do my back cover as well. So I've got them both done now and did the second one off screen. And now I'm going to come in and cut a piece of card. So I found some cardstock that matched the paper on the front. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it to be just slightly smaller. So my piece of cardstock, or my board, is 28.5 by 15.3 centimeters. And I'm going to then cut the inside card to be 5 centimeters smaller. So I get sort of 2.5 centimeters on each edge, if that makes sense. And that way I get this beautiful sort of inlaid piece of cardstock that kind of disguises those edges. Again, I run my sticky tape around the edges. I'm putting on a little bit of glue over top of the sticky tape so I have a bit of wiggle room if I need it. And then adding my glue on the back of that, and then using my scrap paper again to kind of firmly press it down. So here's the book that we're going to alter. So now what you can do if you have not got a binding machine, and I apologize because I'm going to use a binding machine today, that's easier and quicker for me and I like to just kind of get it perfect. If you don't have one, what you can do if you've got a blank notebook is you can use the back of it. This is a book I did in a craft course, and we used the back of the book to alter it because obviously you cannot bend the coils and get the whole entire book apart, so you kind of need to flip it round. So this is a blank book, so it works. When you have a binded book, the coil, you kind of disguise that back book, the back part, the messy kind of coil bit in the back part of the book, if that makes sense, and then it just kind of folds easier. But what you can do is pull those apart just slightly, just enough to pull the cover off. You can then alter the cover and put a cover back on, a new one, or you can put the same one back on if you want and then close it up. And that way you can alter the cover without having to have a binding machine and without having to go through all the pain of punching holes and stuff like that. So that's an option if you have a blank book. It's not going to work for this one because, as you can see, this one's got stuff in it. So if we were to alter it, it would have to go upside down if we were to use the back cover as the front cover. So it's not going to work in this case, but you could do it if you've got blank books already pre-made. You can just kind of pull that cover out. So I'm going to go ahead and open up all these coils so I can take off the covers and pull out the pages. And then that way I can put my own covers on it and have some nice, really sturdy, thick covered pages. So if you've gone ahead and altered your book and you're using that back cover and you don't have a binding machine, what you can do is use a hole punch as well. So I've got the cinch. This is by the We Are Memories Keepers. I think this is one of the latest models, but not the newest one that's come out. And the holes on this book line up with the holes on the binding machine. This is really important if you're going to do binding yourself, is that you make sure your internal pages, if you're saving them, are going to be the same pitch to the binding machine, because otherwise sometimes you can have them too wide. So do make sure you get that correct. Now you can go ahead and put the old cover on top and trace all those circles out. You could then come in with your hole punch and punch the holes out, and then that's how you can kind of do your binding if you haven't got one of these machines. I will do my best to link one of these down below for you, just in case you want to look up the information. This is a 2-to-1 pitch machine. So I've punched out those first couple holes. I can then use, there's a little lining up guide on the left hand side of the machine. I can then push that down, which pinches my holes in place. And then I can just go ahead and push the handle down and punch all my holes. So I'm just double checking that I've got it lined up nice and evenly, and I've got my little pinchy bit down, holding my book cover in place. Now, one of the other things that's really important when you're doing binding with a binding machine is that you get your covers the right way around. So it's easy with the front cover because I've gone ahead and traced all those circles out, and now I can go ahead and punch them. Then I can slide them along and move them. This is where I realized that I had some of them pulled out from a previous project, because you can pull out the little dots, and then that means it won't punch in that space. So I just had to go and push all those dots back in so it would actually punch out my pages. So there we go, got those, and then I'm going to go ahead and line it up with the next one. Make sure to pull out the pull out the holes that you don't want it to punch, so that you don't end up with punches all the way across your book if that's not what you're intending. So now the back cover, make sure you line it up like it's the back cover. You don't want to do the front of the back cover, if you know what I mean, because when you go to line them up, you'll have your book inside out or your pages upside down. If you're just doing blank covers, it's not going to matter too much, but you do want to make sure that you're drawing your circles on the inside of the back so that you line them up with the front cover and you get it all correct. So in order to bind it, what you do is you put your front cover on, your back cover on, and then move your back cover round to the front. You're just going to turn it round to the front, and that way your coils will end up in the right place. You'll see what I mean in a minute with where they kind of pinch together. I put my coil down on the side of my machine, and then I put my covers on first, just because it's easier and less faff, and I just slide them on. I did trim down my coil because it was one coil too long, so I've gone ahead and trimmed that down with my little wire snips that I use for my dies, and then I can go ahead and put all those pages on top of those covers. So now what we'll have is the back of the book where the binding closes being hidden at the very back. So that's why you kind of have to flip the back cover around to the front so that the back ends up in the back. You get used to it when you do it. It really isn't that difficult. Then you use the other end, line it up with the width of your coils, and just give it a little pinch. and push it back into place. If you didn't do it this way and you did it with your fingers, you just kind of pinch those coils back together once you've altered your one cover. So now I've got my full and finished book, and normally I would go ahead and decorate the front of this, but I just didn't have time. It was 32 degrees out. I spent 2 or 3 days making these books, and I had I think I did 6 in total, and it was just so hot in my office. So now I'm going to take my scraps and I'm going to make my card base. So the dies that you get with it, the main die is bigger than your standard cutting platform. So just to make you aware, you do need the extended version. I've got the Big Shot Plus and I've got the Big Shot. So the Big Shot plates will not fit this die, but you can go ahead and cut this out. It's a 5x7 card base, so you can just cut it yourself and do the score lines and make your own base. You don't need to use the dies for this point if you don't have the die cutting machine that would fit it and you have these dies. So now I've gone ahead and I've cut all the rest of the pieces. You need 4 of these sort of panel pieces in whatever colors you want. I used the scraps from my last one. You need 2 shutter pieces, 2 of the belly band pieces, and then you need 1 of each of these sized ones here. So getting started, I'm just going to glue all my panels down. Dead easy. I've just die cut them all out, gluing them all down. Quick, fast, simple, which is what I like about dies. I just like cheating. And I really didn't have the time to do this by hand, but I really wanted a cool looking card. So these were sat in my stash and I thought, why not? So now I'm just going to stick these 2 together here, and this is what we're going to die cut next. So these are fairly thick pieces of card, but the dies do cut through them. This is the set that comes with that set. You get all those kind of circle dies. You'll see one of them in a minute when I do the front. I'm going to use the expansion pack as well. I did a few cards with these a while back and they were so much fun, but I love this kind of doily shape. So what you get is you get the sort of center die and the outside die. So if you don't use a center die, you just get one solid image, which you'll see in a minute. So I'm going to use this sort of center die as my shutter hole, and you can put it at the top, at the bottom, in the middle. You could do 2 holes, you could do 1 hole, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and stick that down in place with my low tack tape and then run it through my die cut machine, and I've got my little secret peekaboo hole. Then I'm going to create a little nice border to go around it just to kind of jazz it up a bit. I left one plain and it just didn't do it for me, so I thought actually I do really want to do this step. So I've gone ahead and die cut that out of some white glitter cardstock so that can go around the edge, and you can see here when you use that middle circle it cuts it out for you and you get this beautiful little border, and it's obviously the exact same size as the hole, so again saving time but making it look quite fancy, which I love. I'm going to stick that down on the front, and then now this step you can do, I'm going to use a pencil and trace around it because that's what Sam Callcut did in her step-by-step tutorial on YouTube, but you can just stick it in your stamp platform after you've stuck down your panel and it will still work. So I'm going ahead and using this thank you stamp set, which I've used 1,000 times. I hope it's still available. I'll link it down for you. I've got thank you, I've got happy birthday, I've got just for you. There's quite a few in the set and I use them all the time. They're so fantastic. I've cut my stamp in half just to kind of make it fit in that circle. I can always stick it back together if I need to and line it up on my stamp platform on a stamp block. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to use some VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp down my sentiment in the middle and make sure I get it in the right spot, and then you can just take a rubber or an eraser and remove the pencil line when you're done. However, you can stamp it in your stamp platform after this step if you want. That's what I kind of did on the rest of them because I didn't feel like wasting my time with pencil marks when I had 6 of these to do. So I've used my foam tape. This is really thin foam tape that I got from Craft Stash. It's just really nice and not too bulky. It's quite a thin one. And I'm just putting it on the top and the bottom only. And then you want to line up your panel to be in the middle of the middle. These are the shutter pieces. This is the sort of magic of the card. It looks like such a simple design and it works so good. It does take a minute to kind of work out what you're doing with them when you kind of make the cards. You'll see my first one I kind of do a little bit of an oopsie and I don't get it lined up quite straight, but most of the rest of them, and which I'll show you at the end of the video, they worked out really well. So you're going to put them together and line them up so that they're nice and flat, and you're going to slide them through underneath that circle, and you're going to aim to get it so that your cardstock is lined up perfectly underneath that opening. and your dies will kind of have a little hole in the middle showing you through. Now, this is where I should be like, ooh, that's not dead center. You want to aim for that little circle hole thing to be in the middle of your circle, if that makes sense. That way when your shutter opens, it opens evenly. So you can see me open it up and you can still see the pink card at the top. So I didn't quite get it lined up, but I'm happy anyways. I still think it's a really cool card, and it was my first ever one making of these. So you live and you learn, and you kind of work it out as you go, and they're really quick and easy to put together. So if you have these dies, you could just make a few of them, really. So that's the card on the inside. You can add a sentiment, you could decorate with some embellishments below. You could put a bit more on the inside of the card if you wanted. Because I had 6 of these to make, I just left it as simple as possible. So here's the die set that comes with the shutter set, and it gives this really cute kind of little, what is it called, dotted outside edge, which Sam Colcutt shows in her video that you can actually run ribbon through it, which is quite cool. So I cut out the same one that I did on the inside, but I didn't cut the middle out of the white glitter. And then I cut a little topper and used the Just For You, and found a coffee little stamp set in my collection, which I stuck on there as well. Now, this is the belly band. And at first I was like, well, what's the point in this belly band? I could just cut a strip and then it saves me die cutting. But actually the belly band fits together exactly around the card and lines up right dead center in the middle. So it's actually really handy. You just need to cut 2 of them, and it wraps around the card perfectly. So I stuck the first element down with a bit of glue, and now I'm going to pop this one up with some foam. And you'll see towards the end I do add a bit more bling to these. I add a bit of what is it called, metallic thread to kind of go behind it as well. But it's so quick and easy to put together. I'm just going to put some glue down and then stick that little embellishment right on the top, and that is the whole card basically finished, apart from the white on the back, which I do remember at the very end to stick on. I thought at this point, woohoo, I'm done, and then I turned it over and was like, oh yeah, that's where my sentiment's going, or my message is going. So I just take my glue and stick that down. So you've cut 2 of these, one for the inside, one for the back. And now you've got a place for your message, and you've got a fun, cool card, and it kind of makes this like noise as you open it, which I quite like. So now I've got my book and my matching card to go with it that I can give to the teachers. Well, I did give them to the teachers already, because we finished school last week, and I love how they came together. With these gifts, I either included a box of chocolates or a box of chocolates and a bottle of wine for the main teachers, and then the teaching assistants got chocolates, book and card. So I was really pleased with how these turned out. I wish I'd had more time and it wasn't so hot, so that I could have gone and decorated the covers of all of them and put some kind of cool sentiment or put their name on the front. But these are all the finished ones that I did. I have another 5 prepped and ready to go, so I can make some spare gifts to hand out to people as well. Maybe some of the club leaders, something like that. But they are really good fun and quick and easy to make. You can see that I've gone and used some of the holographic card from my stash again. I kind of changed up where I put the hole. I put the hole on some of them at the top and some in the middle. I just love the holographic card. It really works well. I changed up some of the papers as well. So I had a really good time doing these. If it wasn't so hot, it would have taken me just a day to do them, but because it was so warm, it took me a couple days. And to do the envelopes, because they're 5x7, I love these sort of paper bags. These are like the paper treat bags. You can get them on eBay, Amazon, AliExpress, and I just have a whole bunch of different colors, and these are perfect for being little envelopes for these cards. So I don't have to worry about buying bigger envelopes either. So here's one of my gifts all prepared. I used some tulle to wrap around the journal just to kind of make it look a little bit prettier, and then a bag that kind of went along with the card that I did, and then I popped them all into these little white paper bags and handed them out to teachers at school. So thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you again this week. I've got another couple videos coming soon. So have a fabulous weekend. See you all soon. Bye.